Welcome once again to Around the Conference, and today we're going to be discussing the journey of one of God's servants as he would have traversed in this life from a very humble beginning, and how God has used him in a mighty way to share the love of Jesus to many. And he's going to talk to us today about his story. I welcome to the program Dr. Leon Higgs. Dr. Higgs, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
We had an interesting little chat before we began as we been talking about your story and the journey that God has carried you through. And it's certainly an incredible one as we have been able to look at it a little closer over the past week. You've recently chronicled this story in your new book.
Yes.
And the name of that book is?
Barefoot to Boardroom.
Barefoot to Boardroom.
Yes.
Barefoot?
Barefoot. Yes. Yes.
Let's start there.
Let's start. Okay.
What is there about barefoot?
Well, growing up in South Andros in the 50s, the late 50s, early 60s, being extremely economically impoverished. And notice I said economically because in terms of relationship, in terms of family relationships, in terms of the church relationships, we were not impoverished at all, but it was just economically. Those of us who eventually got tennis shoes and probably a pair of shoes, you didn't use them during the week.
Okay.
You use your shoes for church on Sabbath. During the week, you walk barefoot. We were comfortable. We didn't know any better. We didn't know we weren't supposed to be doing that. Well, we couldn't afford to do any better. So this story, the reason why I call it Barefoot to Boardroom, is to look at that background from which we came, and then, of course, ending up with where I eventually ended up in life. As a college president, as a representative for the Bahamas government to UNESCO. Those positions, they were, light years away from where I started. And I just wanted to give people the contrast, a perspective from where I came from to now, because for a lot of the younger people, the older people like your father would know where people like me are coming from. But for a lot of the younger people, they see a Dr. Higgs and they believe, well, oh, this man was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And I told a group at a church on Sunday, I was born with no spoon.
Yes.
And it's not to brag, but what I wanted to do with this book was to say to young people that it does not matter into what circumstances you were born. It does not matter where you're coming from. It does not matter what you have or do not have. If you have dreams, if you have hope, and God has put dreams into all of our hearts, then follow them. Don't let them go. You may not know where you're going. You may not even have to get to where you want to go. But if you start, just start. And just do something, you'd find that as you walk or as you do, it will become clearer to you as to where you want to go.
Now you talked about start. So you're starting in Johnson Bay.
South Andros.
South Andros.
I was born in Deep Creek, though.
You were born in Deep Creek?
I was born in Deep Creek, but my parents, my parents were from Black Point. My grandparents were, on both sides, were from Black Point. They moved from Black Point over to Deep Creek, and the two sets of grandparents moved close to each other. There was only the Adventist church dividing the two sets of grandparents. So the two children, my parents, they got married, and they moved to Johnson Bay.
So you're in Johnson Bay, and as I read the book, I begin by seeing that you're interested, or you were sent to school
Yes.
And there were some teachers that you connected with.
Yes. Yes.
One of them was the wife of a former president of the Bahamas conference,
Pastor McKinney.
Pastor McKinney.
Yes, Sister Ruth McKinney.
And I see you there sitting at her feet, just in amazement.
Yes.
She
was incredibly beautiful.
At what age was this? You were?
I would have been about 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
And I almost picture you sitting at her feet in awe, this beautiful woman.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And she really impacted your educational pursuit.
She did. She did. I would, the bigger children, because it was a one-room school, the bigger children, they had the desks. The small kids like myself, we sat on the floor, around the teacher, and she taught us to sitting on the floor. And I would sit there every day and just gazing at Sister McKinney's hair, because she had the long, dark hair, black hair.
Right.
But you can, so with the sand, grains of sand against the black hair, you can see the sand in the hair. You can't live in a place like Camps Bay and you walk the beach or to school or what have you, and not get sand in your hair because of the breeze and what have you. Yeah. That's just a given.
But I almost I'm tempted to want to chastise you.
No.
Because, listen now, because in your book, you talk about, walking the beach and the sand. And yet still, you didn't learn how to swim
until
you went away
to Nebraska.
How could that be? How could you live in one of the world's best beaches?
But I love to fish. I love the water. I love to fish. I love the water.
You didn't learn to swim.
No.
So how did that happen?
It's interesting. My brother swam like a fish. I didn't bother to learn. I just loved the water, and I went out not being able to swim in the boat.
A lot of Bahamians are like that,
And I think a lot of Bahamians are like that.
They have this blessing in front of them, and they just take it for granted.
Interestingly enough, though, and we wouldn't get into that story, but learning to swim in Nebraska led to something else. but I wanted to go back to the teachers, because there's a point I would like to leave with our people.
Certainly.
Sister McKinney made an incredible, indelible impression on me, so much so that I said to my mother one day, I said, when I grow up, I'm going to Jamaica and I'm going to find a wife just like Pastor McKinney's wife.
Okay.
Then before Sister McKinney was Mrs. Barnes, Sylvia Barnes.
Okay.
My first day in school, I was sitting at the window just singing my heart out, and Mrs. Barnes came to me, now Dr. Barnes, and she said to me, just wait, calm down, we're going home soon, it's not time yet to go, And then it was time to go home, and Mrs. Barnes couldn't find her keys to lock the school door.
Yes.
And she looked all over for the key and couldn't find the key. So she said, okay, class, tell you what, let's kneel down and let's pray. And she prayed, and after she was done praying, she remembered that the key was in her shoe.
In her shoes.
Yeah, in the shoes. That story has been with me now from a little child my whole life. Mrs. Barnes, we met up at Oakwood because she was a professor at Oakwood. I was on the faculty at Oakwood. When I had my 40th birthday in California, Mrs. Barnes showed up for my birthday party. So we've had that kind of relationship. Yes. And sometimes when I go to Jamaica, I look her up.
Yeah.
But the impression Mrs. Barnes made on me as a small child, and the impression that Sister McKinney made on me as a small child, those impressions lasted.
Yes.
I'm 59 years old now, and I still think of them fondly. And I use that example to say to our parents, it is crucial that for us to choose very carefully whom we allow to teach our young children. Because at some point in time, those teachers are more important than parents are. We may not believe it. Those teachers are more important, and the impression that they make on our children's lives sometimes are lasting.
Yes.
And so it's very important that we, and this is why I support Christian education. I support it. I believe in Christian education. My boys all graduated from Oakwood College, now Oakwood University. When I chose, and when I say, well, I'm saying when I chose, because I did choose
Yes.
to go back to school. I went to Oakwood Academy, and then I went on to Union College in Nebraska. So for me, saying that I support Christian education is not I'm not saying, well, this is something I'm telling other people to do. This is something that I did when I had a choice.
Right.
And so I think it's crucial, and that's one of the points I want to leave with our audience
And
today.
of course, that's significant because in this journey from Barefoot to Boardroom, this was very impactful, and the whole concept of prayer and the value of it in your life,
Yes.
I see coming through there. We're going to look at a number of areas. But we're going to have to take a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your family.
Okay.
Your father and your mother stand out very strongly here. And then some of your public life. And of course, your life and commitment to God in His church. And some of the lessons that kind of seep out in your story through these experiences. So we'll be right back. We want you to not go away. We are here on Around the Conference with Dr. Leon Higgs. And this is an exciting story. And you'll be taught a number of lessons if you would pick up that book and read it. And which we'll talk a little bit about as we break at this time. So don't go away, stay with us. We'll be right back around the conference.
Lord Transform Me is an intentional effort of all employees and laity of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Inter-American Division to live Christ-like lives through the empowerment of the Holy Spirit in harmony with Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Through renewal of the mind, they experience reformation in the way they live, interact, and serve. Resulting from this renewal, they influence others through deliberate means to accept Jesus as their Savior and become disciples of Christ.
Welcome once again to Around the Conference. I'm your host, Paul Scavella, and my very special guest today is Dr. Leon Higgs. Dr. Higgs, welcome back.
Thank you.
We've been talking about your journey, your book, Barefoot to Boardroom. And in the book, you describe very succinctly yet very powerfully the impact of your parents and the value of family to your life and in this journey. Share with me some of the pointers that you learned. Your father, I remember reading, was not very much involved in the earlier days because he was on a contract.
He was, a lot of the men from the Bahamas worked in the United States on a contract.
But you had time to make up for that.
So Daddy was not there a whole lot. I think Daddy and I made up for it after I became an adult.
Yes.
Because once I was finished with education and came back home, he was my biggest fan.
Yeah. I remember you saying that.
He knew my schedule. He knew wherever I was going, whenever I was traveling, and he knew that from memory. It wasn't a diary or anything like that.
So what are some of the things that you picked up from him?
One of the things that Daddy said to me once, he said that he went to a store and he was a penny short, and the clerk wouldn't let him have the item, and he didn't have any more money, just flat out broke. Somebody who was in line with him gave him a penny, and he was able to get the item. And he said he decided within himself right there and then that that would never happen to him again as long as he lived. And he said that he decided that every payday, if he made 2 pennies, he saved one. After taking his tithes and offering what have you, he saved. He said, never, ever, ever spend everything you earn.
Right.
It doesn't matter how small your income is, just put aside a little something. You'd be surprised how much it grows.
Yeah, your mother was one who could make you cry.
Mother was very strong, strong Bahamian woman, very strong.
What was she before she was a Higgs?
McPhee.
She was McPhee.
She was McPhee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. McPhee's out of Black Point.
Right.
But she cared deeply. She made certain that we were cared for, that my mother would go, wearing the worst old clothes just to make certain that her children were properly dressed. One of the things she did, and I didn't like this part of it, Mother used to sew.
Okay.
And in those early days, she would, every time my sisters, Etta and Marjorie and Etta would get a dress,
Right.
Charles and I would get a shirt.
Have mercy.
Out of the same
Of the same
material.
material. I remember you talking about that. You
Out
couldn't
of
wait
the
until you could get some
And
money to buy your own
buy
clothes.
my own clothes
Yeah,
because
yeah.
and then she decided she was going to make pants for Charles and me, and but she knew how to survive.
Yes.
She knew how to survive. Another story about Mother growing up. Well, this is after I went to Oakwood Academy, and one day a package came for me in the mail, and I went and I opened the package in the dorm, and the whole place was just smelly, man. I was really bad. And the guys were laughing, said, well, Higgs, Leon, what did you get in that package? Something dead in the package? Well, what my mother did was she knew I loved fish from back then. And she fried some fish.
And sent it.
And she sent it through the mail.
Wow.
And by the time it got to Huntsville, it was bad. It was, but again, it was the thought. It was knowing that this is something I like or wanted, and she was trying. She didn't have money to give me to pay for my school, but this is what she had. Another thing was she always encouraged us to, if I say I want to go to school, she does not know how I'm going. She didn't have any money to give me, but she was just backing and say, yeah, go for it, go for it.
But then how, you didn't have any money to buy extra shoes back in Kemps Bay and Johnson. But you ended up at Oakwood Academy in Huntsville.
Yes, I did.
How did that all take place?
All of this has to do with the faith and the will to succeed. There was something in me, I wanted to go to college. When I applied, Union College said to me, we want GCEs or high school diploma. I had neither. They said, get your high school diploma, some GCEs, and then come back and see us. So I decided that I was not going to get the GCEs anymore, so I was going to do the high school route. Back in those days in the Bahamas, that they were the days, even though they were the beginning of plenty for us, because most people in those days can hold as many jobs as they could afford. They were physically able to handle. I had 2 jobs. I was living at home. My folks didn't take any money from me because they knew that I wanted to go to school. So I worked in Nassau for 3 years after leaving Andros. So I was able to save the funds I had. And I believed that if I got into the United States, that I was going to make it.
You're going to make it.
I just needed to get to the United States, which makes me sometimes quite empathetic towards some other people. I understand how immigrants feel.
Yes.
If I could get to the United States, I would make it.
Yeah.
I had enough money to pay for a year of high school, to get my high school diploma. And then I thought, well, if once I can finish high school, college is going to take you. I'll deal with college when I get there.
One step at a time.
And that's what I'm saying to people. You don't wait until you see your way clear, because you'd never see your way clear to do everything. But do the little you can do now, and when you get to the next step, it's going to be clear for you what you should do. And this is what happened for me.
Yeah, because you went to
Oakwood Academy.
You ended up at Union.
Well, I canvassed that year.
Okay.
After Oakwood.
Right.
And then I was able to also get a scholarship from the Bahamas government.
Right.
And so that's how.
So you get there. What was your focus in studies?
When I went to Union, Oakwood was just finishing high school. When I got to Union, I told my advisor that I wanted a degree in business and I wanted a degree in education because I believe I might want to teach.
Okay.
And he said to me, well, why do 2 bachelor degrees? Why not do a degree in business education? You do your major in business, and rather than having a minor, you take the education option, and so I didn't have to do a minor. I did education. I did all my teacher education courses, my methodology courses, and my practice teaching, and so I ended up, as a matter of fact, I once had a General Conference of Seventh-day Adventist teaching certification through the General Conference.
Yeah. And that's
to teach business courses at the high school.
And the rest of that educational story is in the book.
It's in the book.
So I want to invite our listeners to read it because it actually demonstrates how you move from there. You got your doctorate. I remember the story about you coming home.
Yes.
And Maureen Gilbert, I think it was,
picked me up at the airport.
And there was some little surprise, something.
My mother she had organized a surprise party for me at the house in Centerville, at the Centerville Church, because she was a member of the Centerville Church.
Oh, okay.
At the
church house.
The church house in Centerville. And of course, I wasn't dressed to go to no birthday party. So Maureen took me by Christine and Johnny's, and I bought a shirt and what have you. And so I, right from the plane, straight on to this welcome home party. Right. I shouldn't say my whole family, they were very proud of me.
Yeah. Talking about family, tell us a little bit about your sons.
I have 4 sons.
And I understand from the book that you named them all.
Yes, I did. I named them all. Their mother gave them the middle name, but I gave them the first name. The agreement we had was, when we got married, she said to me, now, you name all the boys, I'm going to name all the girls. Okay. Well, no girls came.
No girls came.
No girls came. But she did choose the middle names. And I chose the first names. Yeah. They're all doing well. God has been very good to me in raising the boys. They're all in Florida, except Marcus, who lives in Thailand. He's having a ball there. Okay. But again, I believe that some of the success we had with the boys was because I stayed real close to them while they were growing up. We did things together. We went places together. I remember when LeVar was at the Bahamas Academy, every day when I picked him up, one of the first questions from me was, what did you do in school today? What happened in school today? And then he said to me one day, Dad, you're probably the only dad who asks the kid every day what he did in school, because I don't think my friends' dads ask them that. Well, I told him, well, I'm not your friend's dad, I'm your dad.
You're right.
And I want to know what happened, what went on today. And that was our ritual. I just tried to be very close to them.
Yeah.
A part of their lives when they were growing up. For example, I never sent my boys to church. I took them to church. They were in the Pathfinders. They were active in the church. And I would be very honest with you, there were some Sabbaths when I didn't feel like going. I just felt like sleeping in. I shouldn't be saying this on Adventist television. But we're human beings. Some Sabbaths I just didn't feel like it. But I knew that if I send them to church and I didn't take them, as soon as they got old enough, they would stop going. Right. And I didn't want that to happen. Yeah. So I took them to church.
One of your sons in the book, as we kind of wrap up, talks about lessons that he learned from his dad. I think
it was Marcus.
Yeah. And the recurring theme, I think, as I've examine the book is this theme of family.
Family is very important to me. I usually say to people, you don't choose your family, they just are.
Yeah.
And so you accept your family, warts and all, because they are your family. You love them despite themselves. They're who they are. Growing up, our family was very close. My mother, for example, on any given Sabbath, we never know who was going to show up for dinner after church. And when I came back home from the United States, Vernita and I started that tradition, and now it's something that we have reestablished in our family. But again, that family relationship, and I try to do that with my boys, but it's a little bit more difficult because they're now in the United States and I am here, and they have not grown up in this culture.
Yeah.
But I believe that family, I usually say when the odds are down and everybody has disappeared, all you have left is your family.
Well, when I think about Boardroom, a lot of sometimes difficult situations happen in the boardroom.
Yes, yes.
And when you finish with the boardroom, you need a family.
You need a family to go
back home to that can help to encourage you and
you can relax, you can be yourself. You don't have to be performing for anybody when you're home.
Yeah.
Hopefully with your family.
Well, there's so much more we could talk about. Tell us a little bit about the book. I see you have a copy of it here. And,
yes.
We'll share with our audience how they can get a copy of it.
Well, in order to get a copy of this, they can start off by coming right here to the conference office, to the Book and Bible house. It's here. They can go to Healthy Lifestyle Center and Delhi on East Street. They can go to Chapter 1 at the College of the Bahamas. They can go to Nassau Stationers, or they can go to Logos. And for those people who are internet gurus, they can go to Amazon, they can go to Westbow Press, or they can just Google Barefoot to Boardroom, and it's a number of places as far as Australia and Germany.
Wow.
The book is listed, so it's all over. But what I would like to do for you today, sir, is to make certain that you have your own copy of Barefoot to Boardroom.
I would like that.
And I would like to say to folks that anybody getting the book from me, I would autograph the book for them. And this is to Pastor Paul. I pray that as you read this book, that you are encouraged to continue to follow your dream. May God continue to bless you.
Thank you.
And this is for you, sir.
That God would not only help others to understand that he can do the same thing for them, but that he will continue to use you to help to inspire others. It's such a pleasure we've had being here with Dr. Higgs today on Around the Conference. And again, we want to encourage you to get your copy of Barefoot to Boardroom. And remember that as we allow ourselves to be placed in the hands of God, that there's no limit to what he can do with us. Just put your foot into the waters of your Jordan, of your life, and watch God part the sea for you. Until next time, may the God of comfort and all hope remain with you as he remains with us, is my prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen.